The Victoria trial was a large multinational, multi-center clinical trial that enrolled patients at over 400 sites in over 40 countries. And Canada played a pivotal role for that, and especially the CBC. The CBC was part of the Executive Committee Design and Management of Clinical Trial Sites, and also played a pivotal role in how the data was managed after the clinical trial was done. And what's really important is the CBC personnel stepped up and played a role in the trial where we can really elucidate answers from the trial data set after it's published, which includes secondary manuscripts that really shed light onto everything from safety or other efficacy endpoints that we really want to explore. What's very nice is also we have the ability to work with our industry partners as well as our ARO partners, biostatisticians, clinical trial managers, you name it. And we can really understand the science behind how to treat patients with heart failure with reduced ejection fraction better. As part of the Victoria clinical trial, we were lucky to do a number of different analyses, and including one about hemoglobin. What was realized in the Victoria trial was a greater incidence of anemia developed in patients on vericiguat when compared to placebo. So we wanted to understand what role this played in the outcomes of the overall clinical trial. The first thing we noticed is that anemia was present in approximately 1/3 of patients at the very beginning of the trial, and a very small percentage of those patients went on to have further anemia. The second thing we noticed was that there was no change in the outcomes when anemia developed in these patients, and there was no change in the efficacy of vericiguat overall when hemoglobin or anemia was considered. In this case, we have to really observe the finding, describe it better, and really dig into the data to integrate that into the overall understanding of the Victoria trial. We also had an opportunity to participate and design and develop in a complementary registry to the Victoria trial. In this registry of over 2,000 patients in North America at approximately 50 sites, we described patients who had been both inside or could have been eligible for the clinical trial, and also those patients who were not eligible for the clinical trial. And our goal was to really understand who gets into a clinical trial and how generalizable the findings of Victoria would be at the end of the trial. What we also were able to do was describe the patients in Victoria for high risk, but so too are those patients who don't get into a clinical trial. So these patients, we need to think about how do we get them into a trial at a later point. We're also able to describe those patients who didn't get into a clinical trial and some of the reasons that they decided not to participate, as approximately 1/4 of patients decided not to be involved in a clinical trial. Overall, we were able to describe the area a little bit better and really set our direction on incorporating more patients into our clinical trials and some of the rationales as to why they have declined participation in the past.
Well, the old saying goes that good analysis begins with good data, and the Victoria trial is an excellent example of this. This population is well characterized based on well-collected data and well-prepared data. This has given us the opportunity to work closely with statisticians, programmers, data management from industry and academia to achieve a number of analytic goals. And certainly over the last 2 years, we've covered and achieved many of those goals. One of the themes that I'm particularly proud of our CBC and their collaboration with is the story that started in the New England Journal paper where we saw a treatment interaction with natriuretic peptide at randomization. This appeared across quartiles of this biomarker at randomization, and work since then has taken us to understand this in a better way by looking at the full spectrum of this biomarker at randomization and helping us to understand where treatment may impact the most. Work that's under review currently is taking the story a step further by looking at the trajectory of natriuretic peptide through the follow-up, through the treatment period in these patients to understand how vericiguat may be working in this patient population. Overall, this has been an excellent trial to really showcase and highlight and push the creativity of the analytic teams, particularly those at the CBC.